Botzek-Linn in St. Cloud. Okay, while we were waiting, like I said, I don't know who heard me and didn't hear me. I was saying if you do produce acid or acidified foods through the Pickle Bill and you market them, if you could share that with us in the chat box while we're waiting. Or if you're thinking about it and maybe a product that you're thinking about producing and marketing. Well, thank you for that input. That is helpful to see what you're thinking about. The pickles, salsa, hot pepper sauce. So I have to ask, are you joining us from New York today? Well, while we're waiting, I just have to ask you, you're saying about the food ventures. Do they have a pickle bill in New York where people can produce in the home and sell?
I'm just running through the audio wizard here. Sherry or Deb, do you want to do a sound check and I'll see if I can hear you now?
Hi, Linda. Just checking in. We can hear you nicely, and we're reading the chat box. Thank you, folks who responded in the chat box. Linda, can you hear us? Della, if you want to answer some, you're welcome to answer questions. They are teasers. We're going to cover some of them throughout the program this evening. So just while we're waiting to start at 6 o'clock, just putting up some questions for you. If you want to take a shot at this one, what are the top selling Pickle Bill products? And this is simply based on the input from vendors and producers in classes that I teach. Nothing scientific, just what's the hot seller? Very good guesses. One person has it right out of the answers, but I'll make you think about it a little longer till we get to that part of our program tonight. Okay, let's take a shot at this question. What is the pathogen of concern when home canning vegetables? Is it E. coli, salmonella, botulism, or norovirus?
Hello, this is Linda. It's about 5:53. I think I can hear the other speakers now. So, Deb, do you want to do another sound check, or Sherry?
Yes, this is Deb Botzek-Linn, and I'm your presenter this evening and doing a sound check. And also just like to say that, yes, the majority of the folks got this right, that it is botulism. We are not going to spend time speaking of botulism much this evening, primarily because pickled products have a really, when done properly and pH properly, have a very low risk of botulism, which we're very happy about. How might pickling affect nutrition? Yeah, that's another piece that we don't have in the program this evening, so it's a good thing that you brought it up right now, and we can spend a little time talking about it. All food preservation methods do reduce the amount of some nutrients in the canning process. Freezing is the food preservation method when done quickly from garden to the home to the freezer that maintains the most nutrients in the fruits and vegetables. Pressure canning, I would say, probably is the one that we may lose the most nutrients, particularly because vitamin C is water soluble, and you may lose a little bit of other things. Pickling, not as much. You're going to lose some primarily from the water bath process, but it's such a short process for pickle products that we do preserve some of the nutrients, for example, like in beets and asparagus, and in salsas and the tomato products. They maintain quite well. And this is an important question that we will cover more in depth because this is an important piece of the whole pickle bill. Yes, that is correct, John. Your second choice.
About 3 minutes out. Want to make sure that everyone who's joined recently is getting sound. I will post the question about sound in the chat box too, but you should be hearing voices. Deb is on from time to time. This is Linda Kingery doing a sound check, and we're just a couple minutes away from launching this session.
Yes, C is the correct answer to which vinegar do we need to make sure we're using when we are pickling products. And thank you for participating in the questions. Appreciate that as we're waiting to get started.
Okay, we're about 1 minute away from 6 o'clock. I want to welcome you all to Local Foods College. This is session 5. And Deb Botzek-Linn will be presenting Peddling Your Pickles Safely tonight. And Deb, I know you have a lot of information to cover, so I want to invite you to go ahead and get started.
Okay, well, thank you, Linda. It's a pleasure for me to join you this evening, as Linda said, for Peddling Your Pickles Safely, and to be a part of the local Foods College programming this year. I am Deb Botzek-Linn. As she mentioned to you, I am an extension educator in food safety with the University of Minnesota Extension. I'm located at the Extension office in St. Cloud. And it's nice to be back with you again. For those of you who may have participated last year, I did the presentation on Help Your Customer Preserve Your Produce. I've worked in this area of what I'm now calling farm-to-table food safety for food entrepreneurs. And that has resulted in the first program that we developed, which is Peddling Your Pickles Safely, led into making and marketing jams and jellies, Help Your Customer Preserve Your Produce, and last year a new program that we offered, Take Your Pickles to the Next Level, from home canning to commercial production. Personally, I enjoy making sauerkraut, preserving tomatoes, either drying, salsa, freezing them. I do like making pickled beets and green beans, herbal vinegars, freezer jams, canning chicken, and I could kind of go on. And also making hot pepper sauce. In our program tonight, like Linda mentioned, that we do have a number of topics to cover. There's a lot to the guidelines and regulations and food safety when we talk about the pickle bill. And we will, in this class, cover the overview of the pickle bill, the types of canned food allowed in the pickle bill, acid levels of vegetables and fruits and why that matters so, pH meters and testing, labeling and documentation, how clean is your kitchen, home food processing and equipment, and sharing the pickle experience. I'd like to ask that you please submit your questions in the chat box. I will break following each section to respond to the questions or how it works out. So I'll be sure to tune in there so I can keep up with your questions, because we want to make sure that we do get to those. Also want to let you know that I'll also be on, of course, at the end of this. If you'd like to stay on for some time, I can take some more questions. And that I also will be offering the local Foods College chat call this Friday, February 21st at 1 p.m. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that at the close if you'd like to visit with me further about this topic. So we will start with the pickle bill legislation, the overview of the pickle bill. And at the local Foods College website, if you had the opportunity, I do have 3 resources there. And that's what I'm going to be making use of tonight during the presentation. The first one, if you do have the copy with you, is the operational guidelines for farmers market vendors. And just to give you a little bit of history, how this came about is that in August of 2004, the Minnesota legislature passed a kind of long title here, but Chapter 28A-15, Subdivision 10, and that has become known as the pickle bill. Preceding that, something that was a little bit less known was in the 1990s when they passed legislation, and that was Chapter 28A, Subdivision 9, that allowed the sale of home-processed jams, jellies, and breads in Minnesota. The 2 documents that provide the guidelines and regulations are from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. They are available at their website, and as I mentioned, they're also linked now to the local Foods College website under my segment of the Peddling Pickles program resources. I'd like to just spend a little time on the operational guidelines for farmers market vendors, because like I said, there's these 2 documents that tell you what you need to know if you so choose to take part in this value-added marketing opportunity. This is the opportunity to take a look at some of the main points. And the other piece is, I'll show you that, is the pickle bill fact sheet. And the pickle bill fact sheet is really the document of the need to know about the pickle bill guidelines and regulations. Again, another Minnesota Department of Agriculture handout available at their website, and again at the local Foods College website. Question comes up sometimes, what about jams and jellies and the breads? You said that was a piece of legislation. Yes, that's a piece of legislation, but it does not have a fact sheet like this. So if you were looking for something like that, it doesn't exist. The information that you would need to know about preparing jams, jellies, and baked goods in your home and marketing them is in the operational guidelines for farmers market vendors, and that's where you find the guidelines and regulations for that. I just want to walk through the Pickle Bill fact sheet with you here, and we're going to start out by taking a look, and I'll get my pointer going here. Again, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture is who did, based on the legislation, develop these guidelines, and who are the people that when you're looking for regulations and guidelines to check with. As we go through, again, it's the Pickle Bill fact sheet. It identifies that it comes from a piece of legislation. This legislation came into being in 2004. And then starts right out with, what special precautions do I need to take in making home canned and home processed food under this exemption? Well, the first piece, and we will see this more than once in the guidelines and documents, is that home canned and home processed food must have an equilibrium pH value of 4.6 or lower. Next, they go to showing us about a sign, talking about that a sign or placket card must be placed at the point of sale, which states. Now, I'm going to come back to the pH and what equilibrium 4.6 pH means, but I want to move on to the number 2 point here on the sign. And this is something that you may have seen, or if you're participating in the Pickle Bill, you already have this. This is one of the guidelines that you need to meet to participate in the Pickle Bill. Green is for the Pickle Bill, and there is a pink sign, and the pink sign is posted if you are making and selling jams, jellies, and baked goods. The pink sign says these products are homemade and not subject to state inspection. And you can see this one, of course, these canned goods are homemade and not subject to state inspection. You can get these signs from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture for free. Sometimes the Minnesota Grown Program has them, or you can simply make them on your computer and post them. The reason I want to bring this primarily to your attention in such a large slide here is that in the beginning of the Pickle Bill, this is one of the things that the state inspectors, when coming through a farmer's market or an event, said was missing. It's a simple thing to do, but it's an important piece of the bill and legislation that this is posted at the side and that people are aware of this when they are purchasing. So it's keeping consumers informed. As we go back to the Pickle Bill, that goes on to give us much information on what we can do, need to do, must do. And so I just want to highlight a few of those, but again, encourage you to print the operational guidelines and the Pickle Bill fact sheet. Some of the key highlights from the Pickle Bill fact sheet, of course, like I said, the pH value of 4.6 or lower, and we will talk about that. The point of sale sign is just the green sign that I showed you previously. We're going to talk about what is required on the label of the product when you bring it to market. It does say that up to $5,000 gross sales of selling through and under the Pickle Bill with Pickle Bill products, and that the products can be sold at farmers markets and community events. And it also does then tell you where products cannot be sold, and a few other things. There's more information in the fact sheet about pH, too, to answer, again, some of your questions and things about that. I'd like to go on to talk about what it does tell us in the Pickle Bill fact sheet about what foods are allowed in the Pickle Bill. And in the Pickle Bill, of course, pickles, and that's pretty obvious, but also vegetables or fruits. We're going to talk more about that because of the pH concerns, but they give us some examples. Sweet or dill pickles, relish, salsa, apples, flavored vinegars, sauerkraut, kimchi, barbecue sauce, and pickled vegetables. Again, that the pH is 4.6 or less. There are foods identified in the Pickle Bill that are not allowed, And primary, if you look here, it's protein foods, not pickled fish, pickled eggs, or any kind of meat, or canned vegetables. And this gets sometimes a little bit confusing for people because they're going, canned vegetables? Well, you just said I can do, well, up here we have pickled vegetables. So we'll talk about that. But your basic canned green bean, canned carrot, canned peas is not allowed in the pickle bill. You cannot sell those at the farmer's market or community events. For those of you who did print this PowerPoint out or do have it in front of you, I have to tell you about a correction. It's my mistake. Under foods not allowed, under canned vegetables, I had put pH, I have greater than 4.6. I took it off of here, so I'd just like to ask that you delete that if you did print the PowerPoint slide. It's not greater than 4.6. It's under 4.6. Okay, at this time, do you have questions that you would like to ask about the pickle bill fact sheet and guidelines? Rosemary and Susan, can you tell me a little bit more about the pickle bill applies to, I see what you're saying. If you were going to pickle green beans and include them in your CSA boxes, is that what you're thinking? That's a very good question. I'll have them type in a little bit more here, but that's a very good question. Does the pickle bill apply to CSAs? I think that's a question you would have to ask of your local MDA inspector. CSAs are not listed in the legislation. All that is listed is farmers markets or community events or social events are the three categories for where the product can be marketed. And then there also is a list of where can't I sell home canned and home processed food. And that's consignment shops, private craft shows, on the internet, across state lines. There is a piece that does say from the home. So the CSA piece would probably fall under that, not being able to sell it from the home. But that's a very good question, because I could see where, again, from your CSA, that would be a wonderful opportunity for value-added marketing from your products that you want to put into another form. Okay, and next question. Wondering about raw food pickling and fermentation, such as sauerkraut, asparagus, plums, etc. Yes. Raw food, yes, that's how you're going to pickle your food. So you're going to pickle raw asparagus. If it's plums here, it would be the raw fruit. They would have a heat treatment. So we would, we'll talk more about that as far as the boiling water bath process. Sauerkraut is named in the operational guidelines. Sauerkraut and kimchi, even though you don't add vinegar to them, you don't add an acid to it. But as you're saying, as the fermentation process does create a pH that does meet the requirements of the pickle bill. So yes, sauerkraut does work. You do not use a heat treatment when fermenting. That has been a challenge that does not work for the pickle bill. Things have to be sealed and heat treated for safety for the consumer, so that they're sealed at your home and you're bringing them to the market. And I know this is frustrating for people who do fermentation, and I know that the heat treatment kills off the good bacteria that you're concerned about. So this has been a challenge, and some people are choosing to go beyond the pickle bill. They want to go more to a commercial process where they can get a licensure as a food handler, so that they can do a fermented product that maybe perhaps they sell in the refrigerator section versus at a market. Good questions, good challenges. Okay, other questions? Just keep putting them in the chat box and we'll come back to them. And again, like I said, I will be available this Friday at 1 p.m. The conference call number and password will be posted on the Local Foods College website. This is from the first point on the pickle bill fact sheet, and just took some quotes from that sheet. The equilibrium pH is 4.6 or less, and that you have to have an equilibrium pH results available when requested by a regulatory authority. These are some folks at one of our classes. It was a lovely day in Cloquet, and we decided to practice testing outside at the Forestry Center. Okay, what you have in front of you here is a pH chart. And again, I do have that as a resource at the local Foods College site that you can print off. The pH, or the acid level of a fruit or vegetable, determines whether the produce is safely home canned by processing in a boiling water canner, or if a pressure canner must be used to ensure a safe home canned product. Fruits, pickles, and tomatoes, as well as jams and jellies, are high acid foods that are safely processed with the boiling water canner method. And again, this is the pH chart, and we'll just take a look at it because, again, it's named over and over in the pickle bill fact sheet and the pickle legislation. When we take a look at the pH chart, you'll notice that we have some divisions. Starting out at the top, we have strong acid or high acid and a low pH. And that's about, our foods are hitting about 3.0 there on a pH. We go to the middle, our dividing line, 4.6. We go to the lower level, we have low acid foods with pHs over 5.0, 4.6. It gets a little confusing. We talk about, we have strong acid, but we have low pH. We have low acid, but we have a high pH, and so that can be confusing at times. The foods at the top, above the 4.6 line, can safely be water bath processed. The foods below the 4.6 line, if preserving by canning, must be pressure canned. This is where the pickle bill comes into place, that it is stated that the pH must be 4.6 or lower. So when you look, you can see the types of fruits and vegetables that fit there, and primarily it's fruits. There's peaches and pineapples and strawberries and blueberries, etc., that fit in that part. And you can see where tomatoes are, and then you can see where the many foods that we want to prepare for the pickle bill, the asparagus and the beets and the green beans and the cabbage, etc., are low acid. And so we're going to talk about, of course, what we do to those products with the addition of acid to have them have the appropriate pH. I'm just going to break for a second on Debbie's question here. Could you sell pickles, salsa on the farm in a store we have for sale on the farm using the signs that uses Farmers Market? No, I have to again have you speak with an inspector, but the guidelines have no on-farm sales. And that is different than when you can sell your vegetables from the farm. You can have a farmer, a market vegetable stand. You can sell your fruit, of course, but not to have the sale of the processed product. Okay. Oh, and green tomatoes? Yeah, green tomatoes would have a lower pH than would regular tomatoes because, of course, they're not as ripe. So they're a fine product. We have recommendations for tomatoes with the addition of acid, and green tomatoes would fit into that too. That's a good question also. So just wanted to take a look at the pH chart. Have some more here on pH for you. Okay, this is an example of how pH comes into play into one product. And I just want to show you an example of tomatoes and salsa. And with tomatoes and salsa, as you can see, we're starting out, getting my pointer here, we're starting out with the tomatoes. And tomatoes are very close to this 4.6 line when it comes to pH. So that's one thing that we're concerned about in the making of salsa. One of the things, of course, about salsa, it's very popular. It is a good seller at the market. And everyone seems to think they have the best recipe for salsa, which means that sometimes they're just a little bit maybe too creative with their salsa recipe. So we do recommend that, of course, that you use a research-based recommended recipe for your salsa. And the reason for that is, like I'm just showing you here, the tomatoes are starting to get close to 4.6. And maybe in our salsa, we want to add, my Things aren't coming in. Okay, we want to add onions and peppers, and they're in this range, so they are a high pH. And then we want to add maybe some other ingredients. And suddenly we have these ingredients coming from all over our chart, but we want to end up over here on our chart. And so what we're looking at up here is our lemon juice at the, I'm going to get my pointer out here with it, the lemon juice at the top, the vinegar, and you will see, of course, in salsa recipes, those are always added to ensure that we're getting the pH in this level, because we like to add onions and peppers. And I just like to put this black bean and corn example here for you, because I did go to a farmer's market where a woman had 4 samples of the different salsas that she made, and I really did like her black bean and corn salsa. So I purchased it, I took it home, then I brought it to the office where I have pH meters, and I pH'd it. And the salsa turned out to be 5.3. And so from what we're talking about and what is identified as the guidelines for the Pickle Bill, that product should not have been sold at the farmer's market. That salsa needed to be over here somewhere. Somewhere, a lot of them come in 4.2, 3.8, 3.6, etc. when we're pHing them. So I just wanted to show you the example that we're playing with all different parts of the chart. We're playing with all different pHs, and we are always looking in the Pickle Bill to lemon juice and vinegar as our friend. They are what helps us take take asparagus and beets and foods from this area and bring them up to here so that they are safe to water, bath, process, and market. Okay, a question here, just going to check in. How does one handle dried foods such as dried mixtures to sell to consumers to mix with their own raw tomatoes to make their own salsa? That is under discussion at this point. That question comes up, and there are no specific guidelines on as far as a written sheet. It is not included in the operational guidelines for the vendors at farmers market. So there is some concerns about, people are asking, what about seasoning mixes? What about spice mixtures that they're making? What about their dry herbs that they want to dry and sell to market? Right now, people are doing it, selling it. There hasn't seemed to be a problem. I'm not saying that's the okay or the go-ahead to do it, but it is an important issue that's getting more popular that people need more direction on. And at this time, currently, there is no written guidelines on it. So how do you ensure that you do have a 4.6 pH or below? You need to test with a pH meter. And again, these are photos from Peddling Your Pickles Safely workshops, hands-on pH testing that we do at those workshops. Examples of pH meters, here just 2 of them, but just wanted to show you that we do make use of the larger orange one here. We have that available for using for testing in our classes. There are many different kinds of meters. This meter comes in under $50. There are meters from that price, I'm sure many hundreds of dollars of meters. The question comes up, where do I get a pH meter? Well, they're available, of course, online at many different companies. I'm just going to name the company that we've used because it's so popular with school districts, too, for science equipment. We have gone through NASCO, N-A-S-C-O, the NASCO company. And like I said, they do supply these types of things for schools. Also science and lab supply companies. And with the increased interest in homemade wine and beer making, some of these stores that provide the supplies for wine and beer makers do have pH meters. So if you have that in your community, you may want to check there too. Meters must be calibrated, so this is examples of calibration solution that you want to purchase when you purchase your meter. Meters need to be calibrated to 4.0 and to 7.0. And we're just showing here that there's packets that you can use, a smaller amount, and lasts maybe a little longer. You can also open this packet and put it in an airtight container when you're done and make use of that solution for a little bit longer. And then this is just larger quantities of the pH solution that you can buy. This pH solution is not very expensive. So you invest in the meter, and the pH solution is something else, like I said, that you do need to purchase. Again, another class photo, but this one I just want to point out a few things that are being shown here. These two women at class are calibrating a pH meter, and they have it in the calibration solution. This is the 7.0 calibration solution. This is a meter I told you that we make available at the classes. But also, just to point out, you have your box here, you have your instruction sheet. Always follow your manufacturer's instructions for how to operate and care for your meter. And you want to make sure that you're taking good care of your meter because of the cost and investment of it, but you want it to last, a long time. It's an important piece of equipment for you if you are going to participate in the Pickle Bill opportunities. Just a couple other things here. Like I said, here's the meter calibrating solution. The probe is just very near to the base of this meter, so they don't have to have a lot of calibrating solution, just enough for the probe to get in. This right here is a little tool, like a tiny, tiny little screwdriver that comes with. This is where you calibrate, and then you will read on the side where the woman's looking. So she's turning so that she's calibrating to 7 on the meter. And then they will turn around, rinse the meter with, we have distilled water here, and then they will put it in the pink solution, which will calibrate it to 4, and then they will have their meter calibrated. And you should calibrate frequently during the preservation season when you're testing. Okay, I'd like to move on to labeling. The Pickle Bill fact sheet does state that the label must have, and it must have the name of the person who has done the processing, the name and the address of the person who processed and canned the food. A question that's come up recently is, what about email? Can I put my email on the label? And you certainly can do that. If that's handy for you, of course, for communicating with your customers, for having reorders, if people want to place their order before the market, you can put your email on the label. That's up to you. But they're wondering if they can put their email on the label in place of their address. And again, this is another issue that needs to be further explored. At the time in 2004 of creating the Pickle Bill guidelines, email probably wasn't as big a piece of the puzzle at that point. Another thing that people think about with the address, some people don't want their address or people to know where they live. But the name, the address, or the email, or all three, are necessary on the label in case there's ever a recall of the product. If something, we don't want anything to happen as far as a foodborne illness concern, but if something did happen and a customer did have some type of illness from the product, have to be able to contact the person who produced it for a recall. The date of the processing needs to be there, and that date can also be your batch code or your lot code for your product. So that again, if there was a recall, they're recalling, let's say this is maybe it's a peach jelly. We'll call it a peach jelly, and they are recalling that product that was processed, in July 2013, etc., and has the date on it. The ingredient list is optional. You do not have to say that I have jalapeno peppers in here, and I have pectin, and I have sugar, and I have vinegar, and I have all those things in a jam or jelly product, or in the pickle product. You're making a relish. You have cucumbers and cabbage and red peppers and vinegar and salt, etc. in your relish. You do not have to identify that on the label. But the other thing, in the guidelines for the vendors, you are urged or encouraged to do so, and that's simply from the fact of the increase in food allergens that people in our community are experiencing. And so that if someone is coming to market and wants to know specifically what's in your product because they do have a food allergen, then you have that information available for them. And always use your label to sell your product. We're talking about the guidelines tonight. We're talking about food safety, how to produce a quality and safe product that you can market. But marketing is a whole big piece of this overall pickle bill because you want to sell your product to people. And I don't know if you're wine consumers, if you partake, but if you've ever taken time to look at wine labels, it just kind of amazes me, the variety and the creativity in the labeling, and they do catch your eye. So think about, I wouldn't say my example here tonight is very eye-catching. It has the necessary information on the label, but it's not really catchy. I mean, the lid is. If we look at the lid, the product is lovely, but the label could be improved to really sell this product. So think about your labels. A quick story, young man last year at a class, he is creating a hot pepper sauce that he wants to sell, and he's been working over a year just on his label. It's just really important to him, and if you could imagine, if you've looked at hot pepper sauce bottles, they have some really crazy titles and some interesting creative labeling and stuff too, so he's working real hard on that. And labeling leads us into documentation. What you need to have, according to the fact sheet, is back to our piece where it said, have documentation of the formulation recipe and the equilibrium pH results available when requested by regulatory authorities. Okay? So you need to have your recipe with you when you go to market. And your recipe, which of course outlines your ingredients, your processing time, etc., and also your pH results available for, as an inspector would walk through the farmer's market, they can ask you for those two pieces of information. How you choose to do that is up to you. We're just showing, a simple notebook here. When we first started doing the pickleball classes back in 2006, people didn't really keep very good records. And since that time, people have improved where we see notebooks and 3-ring binders and spreadsheets on computers. Now that, of course, is a little bit more difficult to take to the market with you to figure out how to make that piece work. But finding it very helpful. First of all, because you've got the required pieces of what you do need to have available at request, like it says, of the regulatory authority. But also, looking down here at suggestions, there's lots of good reasons for you to do documentation. Keeping notes on the product. How did it turn out? Oh, you added red bell pepper to that relish and it looks so much better. It sold better. You're going to add red bell pepper next year. That recipe you used to put green in. Now you're going to put red in. You didn't like something. Some product didn't taste good. Again, it didn't sell as well. So keeping notes. That jelly recipe didn't set. That salsa was too hot. Kinds of things that you want to make sure that you know. It also helps you on the products to know what do you want to make for the next year, what do you want to plant in your garden for the next season, because you've kept good notes. And again, the sales records, how many jars sold today at market. Is there a product that just does not sell well and you probably don't want to make that product again? Or you want to package it different or label it different. Comments from your customers. They are asking for more of what product? They came back to tell you they really enjoyed your salsa. It was so good. And it was just, their family really enjoyed it. They'd like to get more. They really like your dill pickles. And then one thing to encourage you in documentation, of course, this is not in the fact sheet. This is just from visiting with people in our classes. Again, when the classes first started, people were not really keeping track of this. They thought, oh, I don't really have much into this. I have extra cucumbers. I have extra tomatoes. It's really not costing me that much to put this together. Well, in time, they found it really, of course, does help to keep track. I mean, we have people keep track, of course, everything. Their seeds, plants along the way. Other people who primarily keep track of their vinegar and their spices and their garlic and the onions and their tomatoes and etc. Their jars, lids, rings. But it should go back to seeds, and it should go to the cost of electricity on your stove or gas for your stove. to figure out your expenses and your costs, and then, of course, incorporating that into what should you charge for your product. Okay, just want to take some time here, kind of catch up on questions. If you have anything, it's kind of a quick overview of many parts of the pickle bill and the pH and pH meters and testing. Okay. Christensen, also using organic sugar versus regular sugar. Oh, you're talking about probably the ingredient list, that you want to list it that way? Okay. That's the way I'm interpreting your comment. Okay. Other questions? Okay. Okay, question for you. I'll have you put this in the... Okay, could you talk more on pH and how to test your product? Sure. Let's go back here. Okay, we talked about calibrating the meter. That is the first thing that you do with the meter. Of course, you get your meter, you read your instructions, you get your calibrating solution, and you calibrate your meter. Then it depends on your product. So they're asking, could you talk more about pH and how to test your product? Okay, we test at the classes. We do one testing with salsa and the other testing with pickle relish. And for a couple reasons. One, salsa is very easy to test. You can test salsa practically prior to processing it. It's recommended that you test after, that you would open a jar of the product, take the salsa out, perhaps it's sat for a week to 2 weeks, and then pH it. But salsa, like I said, you can test really sooner. Cucumbers, making pickles like whole pickles and slicers, you do have to wait almost 2 weeks before testing because it's called equilibrium pH. And with that, you need that vinegar mixture to go through the cucumber to make the cucumber into a pickle. So that you have to wait. And again, back to like pickles and to the relish, you have to chop the pickle up. You have to chop it or grind the actual pickle, adding some of the vinegar brine into it, the pickling brine, into that, and then test that product. So it's a little bit more challenging. So yeah, if that, helps, it's different, but that's what the equilibrium is. There is some debate on how much you have to test. For example, there is talk that you should test 1 jar from every batch, and the debate is, what is a batch? And sometimes for some people, a batch is 1 canner full of 7, 8 jars, or 6, 7 jars, depending on what you're doing, for pints or quarts. And most time we come to the agreement now that a batch is your pickle recipe, your salsa recipe. You may have made 3 batches that day or 5 batches that day, but that you don't have to open that many jars for testing. Okay, so I don't know if that helps at all, but yeah, pH testing, and then you always want to make sure you rinse your meter well. You want to make sure there's no product stuck around your probe, and again, distilled water, soft cloth, and handling it properly, and then recording that pH. It's recommended that you take 2 to 3 pHs of the same product or batch. For salsa, test it, read your testing, go back and test again, so you have a double reading. Okay, other questions? Is the pickle bill the same for Wisconsin? Wisconsin, I'm not as familiar with. I know they passed a pickle bill only a couple years ago. It's very close. If you go to the University of Wisconsin's website, University of Wisconsin Extension's website, I should say, you will see information on the pickle bill there. They have started also offering classes, but there's some things that are a little bit different. I dry apples dipped in local honey and maple syrup to sell at the market. How does that apply? I think that would fall under the jam, jelly, and baked goods bill, actually. So that may fall, and for Chris, that may fall under the 1990s legislation. I don't see a problem with that. And for fruit, it's so safe. So that should work. What about refrigerated pickles, which are not canned? I've seen those. Yes, refrigerator pickles should not be sold at market because, just as you say, they are not canned. There has not been a water bath process or a heat treatment to kill off any mold, fungus, anything that might be there. They have not come sealed from your home to the market, so could be considered an open product that could be contaminated. And there's some refrigerator pickles. There's some real concerns from the National Food Preservation Center at the University of Georgia, looking into some of the concerns of just refrigerator pickles and what might possibly grow in them, in the refrigerator, etc. So we'll be seeing more about that. But no, you cannot sell refrigerator pickles at the market. You cannot sell fresh salsa at the market. That has to be processed. You cannot sell fresh pesto at the market. Those things do need to be processed. Okay. Thank you for those questions. What I'd like to do right now is just take a 5-minute break. And at that 5-minute break, I would like you, if you are with a group of people, I would like you to visit with your neighbor. I'm going to call it our pickle networking break. If you're with yourself at the computer, I still have the same questions for both of you. But what I would like you to talk about is, again, sharing your pickle experience. As I had asked you prior to our program this evening, what is your experience with the pickle bill? Are you currently processing, selling, or are you thinking about it? And what kinds of things are you thinking about? And would you like to do this? And what kinds of questions might you have about that? So I'm going to have you take just 5 minutes, let's say about 4 minutes. And come back at 6:45. And I'm going to do the slides during the break to give you some of the answers. For those of you who joined us just at the start of this, we just had some pre-programmed slides with some questions. So we'll cover those. And we'll be back at 1:45. Where'd it go? Oh, what happened? Here, that's my box. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. This is Debbie coming back. I kind of lost my box here. I was looking. Okay, before we go into pickling and the process, a little bit of things to share with you there. I want to check into the chat box, and we are at, Jim is above that, right there. Okay, I want to start with Jim. Hi, Jim. Why is there a $5,000 limit on sales in the pickle bill? That's just what the legislature said. In collaboration, I guess I should say, with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture when the legislation was written. But I think also it has to do with, this is supposed to be home-based, more of a cottage industry, not necessarily a large production industry. It's not meant to, be producing thousands of jars, making, millions of dollars. It's an opportunity to use value-added product. It started out for people who were producing, if you will, cucumbers and tomatoes and things that had extras that were looking for an opportunity to do something more with them. I think it gets into guidelines and regulations as far as, if the world is different, if you so choose to sell at the retail level where you need a food license, you need a commercial kitchen, you need a tax ID number, you need many things to produce in that realm. And so then you are in competition with major companies and corporations. And so that's not the idea. So I know that's kind of a long roundabout way of explaining it, but that's part of it. Okay. Having sold in the past, want to be creative, such as using natural sweeteners, special varieties of vegetables and fruit, and nutrient-dense foods. I do want to be legal and not make people sick. Yes, that's a good thing. I don't see a problem that you should be able to use your sweeteners. One of the things with using natural sweeteners is that you have to find out or find recipes, research-based recipes, that tell you that these are going to work in canning. Canning is chemistry. Pickling is chemistry. Just if you decide to take out the you decided to reduce the salt in a pickle or reduce the vinegar in a pickle, of course, you're changing the product, the recipe, the quality, and the safety. So sometimes we just can't make such changes. And like you said, want to be creative. Creative, you have to keep in mind, creative is one thing, but in food preservation, we're looking at a lot of safety and science. And we're looking for science, I should say, for food safety, but we're looking for the science and the chemistry that produces a quality product. And sometimes some things just don't transfer. Special varieties of veggies and fruit. Not sure, quite what you're thinking there that you want to work with. Just about everything can be pickled. It sounds kind of strange, but we have people come to class that they pickle garlic and they can sell that. They pickle okra, many different things that people do pickle. And yeah, you want to be legal, and that is wonderful because that's what this is about. This is a wonderful opportunity in Minnesota. There are other states that would like to have this, people in the states, and they do not have this opportunity. In Minnesota, we are fortunate to have this opportunity. So we do want to know what the guidelines and regulations are and how to produce a safe product. And we want people to enjoy our product and not get sick from it. Above that, okay, Chris, on the apples, yeah, like I said, I think they would fall under the jam, jelly, and bread regulations. The fruit, they're not a potentially hazardous food, so I don't see a problem with that. Okay, if we can scroll down to Barb's question. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the whole thing right here. Okay, we can't figure out the reasoning behind not being able to sell same products at CSA or farm stand. Can you add light? Yes. The reason for that at this point, I'm not saying that someday it won't change, is that, again, this opportunity to produce food in your home without an inspection, without a food license, and for you to be able to take that product to market and sell it to the public in, if you will, like in competition with a retail store, with your local grocery store, with other large marketers, is part of the reason. And what happens here is that the only way to monitor these products, being that they're not inspected, the only way to monitor these products is for an inspector to come through a farmer's market, a public venue where, say 6 of you are selling products under the pickle bill, or number of farmers markets and farmers market managers are really good monitors of this. They want to make sure that quality product, safe product is coming to their market. The market board or the manager may have guidelines. Some markets have chosen not to even allow these pickle products in their market. Others want to make sure that you are providing them, that they want to see your pH tests, that they want to know that you've attended a Peddling Your Pickles Safely class, that they want to make sure that you're bringing it to the market in clean boxes and containers, and that your jars, rings, lids, everything look clean, your jars are sealed. So that is why you can't sell as a lone ranger at your own market, because you don't have an inspector coming by, and you don't have a farmer's market or manager or board or a group of community to help monitor your products. So that's a little bit of the light on it. Like I said, I'm not saying that won't ever change at some point, but that's the way it is now. Does the limit only apply to pickled items? We're talking about the $5,000, I assume. That is debatable. There's a $5,000 limit on jams, jellies, and baked goods also. And then that's also identified under the pickle bill. And it's getting a little bit confusing, because some people have said, no, I can produce $5,000 of jams and jellies, and I can produce $5,000 of pickle product. And some people have said, no, the husband can make $5,000 on this product, and I can make $5,000 on this product, the wife or partners, whomever. And so right now it pretty much is $5,000 per establishment. And again, you can discuss that with your regulator, your inspector, because that one has gotten a little gray at times of what can you apply. And again, that's that thing where then are you getting so big that you should be licensed, that you should have a commercial kitchen, etc. I've had a person attend our Making and Marketing Jams and Jellies class. She was from South Dakota, and they don't have the pickle bill, etc. But the next year she stopped by at the conference, and she produced something like 19,000 jars. She's off to a different level now at 19,000 jars of jams and jellies. Okay. If you had MDA inspection of farm stand CSA operation, would that work? I think that's a very good point to ask. So, Barb, do ask that question and see what they might tell you there. How can we find out if it is actually illegal to sell canned goods through a CSA? Through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Again, at the top of the, can we go back there quick? I want to show you, I'll go back real quick here. Okay, through the slides, I'm sure this records just lovely, but okay, right at the top here is the number for the dairy and food inspection. Here is for also the same thing. If you go on the internet to their site and you go to their inspectors list, they will show you who's your local inspector, and you can talk to them, but you can contact folks here. Okay. What if products are being produced at a commercial kitchen, but it's located in the home of the farm? Yes, that is a different world. Thank you for bringing that up. That is a different world. If you have a commercial kitchen at your farm, if you have access to a commercial kitchen and you have a food handler's license and you meet, the qualifications for that, you certainly can sell those products at the farm. So that is where I said we offered the class last year, taking your pickles from home canning to commercial production. And that's exactly, Becky and Michael, what it looks like you're up to. And that works very well. Oh, wonderful. Linda's sharing. Yes, I did see that too. And I'd like to participate in that one too, where Session 8 of Local Foods College will include information about community and commercial kitchens on March 18th. That is wonderful because, like I said, as we've had this pickle bill for, since 2004, we started programming in 2006 to it, we have had people who have really developed their product, and it's very popular and it sells well at the farmer's market, and they want to take that next step. They want to be on the shelves of the local meat market, or they want to get into the local grocery store or the local boutique, or sell online. There's a number of things that they want to do next. Okay. Thank you for that. And we'll continue on with pickling, because if you're going to participate, I'm going to get my slides back here. If you're going to participate in the pickle bill, you will be pickling, of course, as we know that pickling is not just for cucumbers anymore. I had this question out for you, and I'm sorry, I forgot who got it right in the beginning. But like I said, this is no heavy-duty research here. It's simply from the farmers market vendors are telling me that, oh, shoot, it didn't come in. All right. Okay. Well, we'll point it out. Pickled asparagus is the vegetable that seems to be really selling well. These all sell well, I should say, but pickled beets, dilly green beans, pickles, salsa, pickled garlic is a newer one. That's a lot of work to get that garlic peeled and pickled. But we know that vegetables from asparagus to zucchini can be home preserved by pickling. The key is that you want to be sure to select a recipe from an approved source that is specifically designed for the vegetable that you are pickling. And you want to follow the directions carefully for a safe, high-quality product. Okay, and we had talked about this, and yes, it is that the 5% acetic acid is the type of vinegar that we want to use when pickling. And the reason I bring this to your attention is that there are other vinegars on the market. There are 3% and 4%, but our recipes are meant to have 5% for quality of the pickle product and for safety of the pickle product. Stopped at my local market last year. I live by a small community, and with that, vinegar was on sale, jug of vinegar, and I just picked it up, put it in my cart, and I'm going through the store, and I thought, gee, I didn't even check the label, but I'm sure this jug of vinegar is 5%. Well, it wasn't. It was 4%, and it was on sale, and it was substantially less than the jug of 5%. That, of course, was not on sale. So you want to make sure that you do read the label and purchase that product. When you're going to be pickling, you want to make sure that you plan to pickle fresh produce within 24 hours of harvesting. It's very important for a quality crisp pickle product, especially for cucumbers. And you want to use quality ingredients. Again, the vinegar at 5%, canning or pickling salt, and fresh spices or fresh dill. And, Sherry? I'm sorry, my screen just disappeared. Well, I'm sorry, we lost my screen here. I don't know if you...
Still showing on our end, Deb.
Okay, we got it back. Sorry, there we go. Maybe you had it and I lost it. But, yeah, and taking a look at these to make, again, a quality pickle product, I judged a pickle contest at a radio station a number of years ago, and 40-some jars were entered. And, of course, we had to take the first 5-6 jars out that we eliminated simply because they were spoiled. The pickles were soft, the brine was white, etc. So a number of things that happened there. But out of those products, not all those pickles were very good. And I guess I was just saying before I lost my screen here, I can't click on that. I was trying to show you the dill because my statement always is the dill ever ready when the cucumbers are? And another thing just to mention here is water. When it comes to pickling, it's kind of fun just to visit with people about what type of water did they use to produce a quality, crisp, pickled product. And people will go quite long distances to get the water that they want to use. So I always just say use the water that works for you. And by that I mean, is it softer, harder, whatever works for you. And then just to point out that with canning, of course, pickles now we do recommend the ring and the lid, the two-piece, versus in years past where we had the zinc lids with the rubber rings on them. Okay, and then pickling questions. Anything that you'd like to ask specifically about pickled products, situations that you've had, products that you're thinking of producing for the market, and a question you may have about that. There was a correction on the session. That session is March 11th. That will be about the community and commercial kitchens. Okay, or any experiences that you'd like to share on pickling. Okay, and I just wanted to take just brief time to talk about tomatoes and salsa when it comes to the pickle bill, because there's just a number of things that you can do with tomatoes that do fit under the pickle bill. Of course, salsa being one of the popular ones. Barbecue sauces, spaghetti sauce, tomato juice. You technically could sell stewed tomatoes, canned tomatoes. I'm not sure that anybody really does that. There's a Minnesota tomato mixture where there's some, bit of peppers, onions, etc. added to tomatoes. So there's a number of ways that tomatoes can be prepared and sold at market. And some things that you want to keep in mind, I'd just like to share this point, is that all tomatoes are not created equal. And be sure that you don't can tomatoes that are overripe, decayed, or frost damaged, exposed to frost or harvested from frost-killed vines or ripened indoors. And I bring this to your attention because this really comes into play when folks are trying to save every last tomato at frost time. Now, someone earlier had brought up about green tomatoes. Yes, rather than trying to save every tomato to the very end to ripen on the vine, consider green tomatoes. More products and recipes are coming out. They could be sold under the pickle bill. A coworker of ours here at the Extension office did bring in some pickled tomatoes. There's, of course, green tomatoes and relishes, and it was really good. There were some really, really good things. So think about that. But what does happen here is that in any of these situations with frost, etc., does reduce the acid level. And as you remember back from our pH chart, tomatoes are so close already in pH to that critical 4.6 line that if they experience these situations, then we have probably moved them even in, 4.85 range. And so that would throw off our recipes. Okay. Processing in a boiling water bath is necessary when canning high-acid foods. Again, those foods that were at the top of the pH chart, such as fruits, pickles, relishes, and jams and jellies, and also, of course, with all your Pickle Bill products that will be water bath. And again, we had the question on the fermentation where you don't do this process, but we cannot then sell that product at the market. That will take some other regulations and guidelines. So just showing here a water bath canner, the blue traditional canner. Also on the side showing that you can use a regular kettle with a flat base bottom. You want to make sure that whatever container that you're using, that you can at least put 1 inch to 2 inches of water over the top of the jars so that we are processing safely, and that we do have a rack in because you want the water to circulate underneath the product to make sure that we're getting good heat penetration to the center of the jar. And we do this, as I had mentioned before, to destroy the yeast, molds, and any bacteria that might be there. And of course, that we want to create a good tight seal on our product to prevent spoilage, keep it safe, and for us to safely transport it to market. I just put this in not because this is part of the Pickle Bill by any means, but because this is something that's come about the last few years that people don't always think about. And as we're talking about canning, I just want to remind you that canning on a smooth or glass top electric stove can be a challenge. And more people seem to be purchasing these as they're replacing their stoves. And a couple of things that are taking place here. One is that with the water bath, again, like I said, if you remember, this blue traditional water bath has ridges at the bottom. And when we put it on this stove, it needs to be flat on the bottom. That's why we have like the silver stock kettle there, or soup stock kettle, to be flat to make direct contact. Pressure canning, for the most part, is, I'm going to say 99% not recommended on these stoves because of the heaviness of it and also the length of time that a pressure canner would be on the top of this glass, and also that these stoves tend to surge, so difficult to keep the pressure at an equal 10 pounds pressure, 12 pounds pressure when your stove is surging. And also that many manufacturers simply do not recommend canning on smooth top stoves. But like I said, for the most part, people are having okay luck with a flat bottom kettle for water bath canning. And I just want to share that with you because, of course, with the Pickle Bill, like we said, you do need to hot water bath process your pickle products. Okay, couple of things here. Questions. Do not use hot water bath but primarily pressure can. You certainly can do that. If you like to pressure can, I'm trying to think though how many pickle products you can actually pressure can. So maybe you can help me out a little bit here because there are no salsa recipes that include any pressure canning recommendation. They're all water bath, and of course pickles you would water bath. Maybe some, spaghetti sauce, tomato juice, etc. But a lot of the high acid foods or low pH, like our fruit and stuff, are a little more delicate and have a very short processing time. And once we add vinegar to a vegetable, we're creating another environment where we're adding, too many things that might ruin the quality of the product if we get it too hot. So maybe you could share with me kind of what you're pressure canning, if it's anything related to Pickle Bill products. It'd be interesting to know. Also, canners tend to scratch the glass tops more than just cast iron Dutch kettle. Yes. That's another piece of it is, of course, they can scratch too. But just in case you weren't aware of this, as I'm teaching food preservations around in different communities, and a lot of young people interested in learning to home can, and they're not aware of this. And so they're hoping to go home and water bath can or pressure can. They started a garden and they want to move on to other things, and it just doesn't work out very good. Okay. The Pickle Bill, as I mentioned, does give us the opportunity to process in our home, again, without an inspection, without any licensure, and be able to sell food to the public. And so my question to you here is, how clean is your kitchen? And of course it goes beyond that. But just want to make that point that even though it's not named in the pickle bill, this is a critical food safety factor to consider when you are making these products at home. You want to make sure that you have clean people. If it's your people working in the garden picking your produce, if it's someone helping you preserve the food, of course, including yourself, you want to wash hands, basic food safety practices. Keep your hair restrained, have clean clothing, clean containers, counters, equipment, have a sanitizing solution that you can use on your countertops, on your equipment, sterilize your jars, etc. Other things, you want to make sure that we don't want to wear jewelry. It's a standard, again, food safety practice. Pets, keep the cats and dogs out of the house when you're processing. Keep them away from the product. My cats never go on my counter or my stove, I'm sure, when I'm not home. And you know how that goes. And also, where are the children? Are they part of this? Are they going to be helping you? Or do they need to be kind of out of your way when you're working on your product? And another piece, of course, is your vehicle. You need to be clean transporting your product to the point of sale. Just want to emphasize so strongly the importance of hand washing. We recommend, of course, a 20-second hand washing with soap and warm water. And through the process of gardening and getting your produce picked and in the house and peeled and ready and jars and et cetera, there's a lot of hand washing that has to take place as we're working with preparing our equipment, our food, like I said, from the garden to the home, to the jar, to the canner, etc. So you may be washing your hands, of course, many, many times. Another thing that's not shown here is that a good thing to have is a nail brush. And having a nail brush, of course, because when we're in the garden, it's tough to get that dirt out from around our nails, under our nails. And that is just someplace, of course, that dirt likes to stick. Around our nails, in the cracks of our fingers, along between our thumb and our forefinger, etc. So a nail brush, hot soapy water, plenty of it to keep you going during the production season. If you want to make a sanitizer, an easy, economical one is a simple chlorine bleach sanitizer. And the basic recipe is here on the right. If we take a look, the simplest one is 1 teaspoon of bleach per 1 quart of water. And you need to make that, you can make that fresh every day that you're processing. And you want to be sure that you clean and rinse your say we're doing countertops, clean the countertop with warm soapy water, rinse it with clear water before you would put this in a spray bottle, spray it on, leave it on the surface. We have contact time to know about, but I don't pay much attention to the contact time because just let it air dry. So there will be the contact time. You can make, of course, if you need to, a gallon, 1 tablespoon per gallon, or 1 teaspoon per quart. If you smell the bleach, you have too much. And so you also can purchase at like restaurant supply stores and things. You can purchase test strips if you want to test your concentration. But this is our basic standard at-home type of sanitizing solution. And so easy one to do, and just a good thing to keep in mind, again, as you're being a producer of food products. Question comes about, what about things other than chemicals as such, like white vinegar or hydrogen peroxide? Just want to call this to your attention that this is research that was done at Ohio State University Extension in 2010, and they do give information for heated product, whether you're heating the white vinegar, and recommendations for how you would handle it if you keep it cool. Now, you can see the heated one, it is not diluted. As we said, it's undiluted. So you're not mixing it like you're mixing the water to the bleach. And you're adding a half cup, at this temperature, in a spray bottle, surface, etc. Cool, to me, actually isn't too cool. It's a 77 degrees or room temperature that you have your vinegar or peroxide at. Again, pouring it straight, not diluted, into a spray bottle, and then it must sit on the surface for 10 minutes for the cooler method. So just for your information, if you haven't heard of this, like I said, we'll be hearing more about this again as people are seeking out more products that may not be as chemically minded to try these simpler things. Okay. As I said, sharing the pickle experience, asked you to do that over your break time. Just like to take a minute here for you to think about if you are producing and selling, or again, if you're thinking about maybe this spring and summer, you're looking forward to producing product that you'll take to market. What ideas have you used to encourage the sales of pickle products? What ideas are you thinking of trying? And if you'd like to, those of you with some experience or those with ideas, if you'd like to enter in our chat box, sharing some of these things would be wonderful to hear from you. We'll just take a minute for you to think about these 2 questions. A few ideas I'd just like to share with you that I've gathered from the folks who have participated in our classes over the last few years, and some of the things that have worked for them to promote their product. And like I said, we're talking about kind of making jokes that pickled asparagus is the most popular product, but it's up there. And, again, there's a number of other products that have worked for people. But can't beat the beginning here of a smile, greeting the customer, be friendly, and share about the product. As we know, much of the local foods movement, the fun of it, what people are enjoying is getting to meet the producer, the farmer, the grower, learn about the agriculture production, learn about the vegetable gardening, learn about the product. And so that has been a good sales point. Because we're talking about food safety and the critical point it plays in the pickle bill, clean, clean, clean. Everything needs to be clean. It is not only a food safety tool, it's a marketing tool. The stand needs to be clean, the product, the vehicle, and you and who's ever working with you need to be clean clothes, etc. A business card, maybe that you have available and can pass out. Again, we talked about the label and what needs to be on there. But again, if people want to purchase in quantity, if they want to pre-order and make sure that you have their 4 jars for next Thursday at the market, so that you're available. You can have information on your website. You cannot, with the pickle bill, like I said, it does say you cannot sell online. Another piece for you to check on. Recipe cards or brochures about your product line. How do you use it? Maybe you make a really good relish and it makes a wonderful tartar sauce, and they haven't even thought about that, how to make a tartar sauce out of your relish. Or of course, if you make jalapeno pepper jelly, how do they use that? We learn about the cream cheese and the crackers in all many different ways. Maybe you put it over meat and roast it over pork. What are your ways of using the product that you can share with them to encourage them to purchase it and to continue to purchase it? Other things, posters and signs for display. Like I said, you need to put up the green sign that I showed you earlier in our program. And also, I'm just thinking signs about your product, photos of your product. We do know that home preserved products are lovely. The beautiful jars of pickles and salsas and pickled vegetables and mixed pickled vegetables and stuff are just lovely to look at. And perhaps you have photos of them to help enhance your stand, or maybe you have photos of some things that you don't have available that day, but you're going to have next week. Or you're going to have it next month, so people know that you're going to be the person that's going to have, a certain salsa coming in the fall. So let people know what your product line is, and let photos make it be inviting and eye-catching. The question comes up about sampling, and I'm not going to cover that now because there is information in the guidelines for farmers market vendors, but also it's my understanding that the process for you offering samples of your product at market is under discussion at this time, I believe, by the Farmers Market Association and I think the state legislature. So you'll learn more about that. But again, just want to say about the eye-catching label, the product, your stand, you have a decor, a theme, and you. If you're the best salsa maker around, perhaps you want to wear an apron that has wonderful fabric made from chili peppers. I don't mean made from chili peppers, but it has chili peppers, tomatoes on. You want to promote your product that you do well. Okay. Now I'm going to check back to the chat box here. Presenter samples, prepackaged utilities container packaged in home. Yep. Brought to market cooler is legal. Okay. Yeah, as I said, we're learning more about samples. Thank you for sharing that information. Have you packaged them at home? Okay, and yes, I know Kathy Zeman from the Minnesota Farmers Market Association will present next week food safety considerations for farmers market. Yes, and I know that she's very actively involved in what sampling means, it can be, how it can be handled. And sampling, I'm coming from the pickle bill perspective. Like I mentioned to you, it was wonderful that day when the woman had the 4 different salsas. She had it very clean. She had it on ice. She had small containers when I bought the black bean and corn salsa. Unfortunately, her black bean and corn salsa did not meet the recommended pH, but the sampling was done. So, yeah, do tune in for the session with Kathy on the market considerations, and you'll learn more about that. Okay, questions that you may have at this point. We're coming to the end. A few more things that I want to share with you before I wrap up with our session this evening on peddling your pickles safely. I just want to emphasize, like I said, as we come to the close of this program, that you always use research-based resources. And I want to point out a couple of them that you may not be aware of that are available. As we know, there's lots of information online. That doesn't mean that it's always safe. It may be someone being very creative with a recipe, but it may not be the recipe that you want to be making or selling. As we take a look here, over to the right, I have an example here of the University of Minnesota Extension food safety website. At that website, we have numerous pieces of information for you on home food preservation. I also want to point out to you that we do have information on upcoming classes and courses, that we have 18 mini modules, 5-minute modules for you to view online about different aspects of food preservation, that we do have the online presentation of what's new in home food preservation. This is a 13-minute DVD in some county offices or also online. And then you can subscribe to our newsletter. I'll show you the answer line. Before I get to that, though, I also want to point out to you a wonderful resource called So Easy to Preserve. That is available from the University of Georgia, and they host the National Food Preservation Center. This is the book that we go to. It covers everything. It's wonderful, and I think it's $18 now with no shipping and handling, and it would be available for you to check out online at the National Food Preservation Center. Also want to make sure that you know this number and this service. Answer Line is our toll-free number. It's in cooperation with the University of Minnesota Extension and with Iowa. And my favorite part of this is you get a real live home economist that you need to, you don't need to push all those buttons. Push 1, push 2, push 3. You can simply ask your question. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And toll-free, again, do make use of them. They answer food preservation, food safety, home questions, mold, mildew, stain removal, many, many things that they do answer. So do make sure that you're aware of the answer line. I always kind of tease that the only thing they don't do is they're not there when I'm home canning at 8 o'clock at night. And I have a question for them. I'm going to take some chat box questions here before we move on to 2 more pieces. Linda asked, Deb, who should take the full 6-hour training? Okay, I'll come back to that one. I'm going to go to Amy here. I had a question several years ago for the answer line regarding the use of alum. It couldn't be answered. Okay, we do not recommend the use of alum. Alum was an old-time ingredient thought to increase the crispness of a cucumber pickle. If you so choose to do that, there is no harm in it, but the recommendation turned from alum to removing the blossom end of the cucumber. What they found out is that you want to take a very thin slice off the end of the cucumber to remove the blossom end, so that you're removing an enzyme in there that causes softening of the cucumber as it's becoming a pickle, and it never does get to be a crisp pickle. But there was things with alum, lime, and grape leaves. And actually, to tell you the truth, they did find out that there is something in grape leaves that does help contribute to the crispness of pickle. But, yep. Okay, use of alum in pickles. I know that. Okay. I know that now. Okay, what about lime for? Yep, that's what I was saying. No, lime is not necessary either. What we're saying is, like I said, taking off the blossom end of the cucumber, and also the very short water bath process, which kills off any molds or yeast that might too cause a spoilage of the cucumber, causing it to be soft rather than crisp. So no, we no longer recommend those. Okay, this is an example of our home food preservation e-newsletter, and if that is online, but if you'd like to email me, I can certainly get you on the subscription list and it'll come directly to you. It's free, it's 4 pages. We do 4 issues a season, and at the top, of course, is to the left is the topics and the issue, and below that is food preservation information resources that we link you to. We change those monthly, so that's something that, if you're not aware of, is available to you to be a part of. Question comes up, what about the Ball Blue Book? You may be familiar with that book. It's you'll find it at wherever canning supplies are sold. There's usually Ball Blue Books there. And yes, it is a recommended, credible source for you to use. It usually runs about $5 to $7. So I always say it's a really a neat gift. If you got some new preservers, even people that are preserving for a while, it's a wonderful new pieces of information and ideas in. Now, this photo is not the Ball Blue Book at $5 to $7, but this is another book I just wanted to let you know. It's just very interesting. Teaching classes, and people are telling me that they're making carrot cake jam, and they're making Black Forest cherry jam. And I'm like, where are they getting these recipes? And this is where they're getting them from. So this is from what's now called the Jarden Company, which is Ball and Kerr combined. And they have this book out, and it's just really, it's recommended. It's a good book. Okay, Linda had asked about upcoming classes and who should take them. If you are producing for the Pickle Bill, if you want to know more about pH meters, if you want a hands-on experience pH meters, and more in depth of the topics I covered this evening, then I would recommend that you come to our Peddling Your Pickle Safely class. As you can see, we have April 24th at Cabela's and Rogers. These classes are in conjunction with the Minnesota Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. Our Making and Marketing Jams and Jellies this year on the right side will be held in Little Falls on April 2nd. That's a 3-hour class. The Taking Your Pickles to the Next Level will be in July. We do not have a date set for that. But for some of you that were talking about the commercial kitchen and selling from the farm, this would be the class for you. We have a wonderful presenter from Minnesota Department of Agriculture who is extremely knowledgeable on the regulations of those types of things. And she will be presenting again this year. So, that's of interest to you. We'll keep you posted. Also, we're going to have a food preservation webinar again. I'm working with Minnesota Fruit and Vegetable Growers to offer Help Your Customer Preserve Your Produce. That'll be on June 10th from 9 to 10, and that's free. You're certainly welcome to join us on that webinar. I'd love to have you there if you haven't participated in that class. With this class was asked to provide a certificate of attendance. As I had mentioned, for some farmers markets, they're asking people to attend this class. Within the certificate of attendance, I did identify the subjects covered that we went through, overview of the pickle bill, types of canned foods, asset levels of vegetables and fruit and why that matters, pH, product testing, labeling, documentation, cleanliness and sanitation, and home food processing and equipment. And with my signature there. If you would like to receive this certificate of attendance, we're not going to mail it out to the entire class, but the guideline is that you have participated, as you have, you're still here right now, and also that you email me. And so I have here, if you would like to request a certificate of attendance, email me at botzekline umn.edu, and I'd be happy to get this certificate out to you. A couple other things. I'm going to go back to the chat box here. Lime, okay, good to know. If you have a group viewing this webinar together and you want each receive a certificate of participation, please type in the names of all people in the group. Yes, please, we're happy. Well, we can put your names in, right? We can put names in, and we will, yes, if you have a group of people, thank you, Linda, for that reminder. We will get a certificate. We will email to you, and then if you would please distribute to the people in your group, or if you give me their names and emails, I will, of your group, certainly send them directly to them then. So that would be wonderful. I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for your questions and comments and participation. Again, if you'd like a certificate, please do email me. Friday's chat at 1 o'clock. I'd love to visit with you with questions, things I can tell you more about our other classes, a little more in depth on some things that pertain particularly to you. And I'd just like to say, soon we hope to be enjoying the bounty of Minnesota's produce and safely preserving a quality product to take to the taste of summer with us to months to come. And I'm thinking after this winter, we are kind of looking forward to that taking place. I want to wish you a great market season, and if you are or choose to participate in this opportunity, do peddle your pickles safely. And I'd be happy to answer some questions here for a few minutes if anyone has something. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. That was a lot of great information. Just watch, see if there's any questions that come up. Check the classroom page for the information on that call for Friday, for a lot of other information too. Many of the documents that Deb showed you are posted on that, on the Local Foods College 2014 Moodle website. So you'll find all of those things right there. Thank you very much, Deb, for sharing all this information. Really great job on UM Connect. I want to commend you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Linda, for inviting me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Like most folks are just saying thanks. We'll watch those go by and if anything comes up. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good evening.